everyone. So delighted to be here today representing Westminister Talking Therapies. Thank you very much, Gina, for a very comprehensive introduction. I didn't understand any of it, but I'm sure it was fantastic. So my name is Gina, and I am formally not actually working there anymore, but I was the Community Development and Engagement Lead for Westminister Talking Therapies. So in my role in Talking Therapies, it was about building bridges between mental health services and different community members. We are aware that accessing NHS support can be really tricky, really difficult, really challenging. So organising an event like this is honestly, it's one of the greatest things I could ever be a part of, so I'm so delighted to be here today. And I'm joined with two of my colleagues from Westminster Talking Therapies, so I'll pass the mic so they can introduce themselves.
So we've got two Wendys here actually. So I'm Wendy from the counselling team. I'm the Step 3 counsellor from Westminster Talking Therapy.
And I'm Wendy as well. I'm working as an assistant psychologist at Westminster Talking Therapies. So a bit of a different role to other Wendy.
Great, so we'll move on. We'll move straight into who we are. So who are Westminster Talking Therapies, or what is a talking therapy service on the NHS? So there is a NHS Talking Therapy service available in every borough in England and Wales. And it is what we call a primary care mental health service. So it works quite similar to your GP in that it is the front door to mental health services. We're very lucky at Westminster Talking Therapies and all the talking therapy services that you can make a self-referral. So you don't have to go through your GP for a referral to Talking Therapies. You can if you want to, but you can make that self-referral online or over the phone or via email. If you don't live, work or have a GP in Westminster, you can access your local service by just Googling what your borough is and Talking Therapies. We are very lucky today to be joined by colleagues from Talking Therapies from other places in England. So we've got colleagues from South London and Maudsley, so that's called SLAM, and then also Cambridge. So just a little bit more of an idea. But our Talking Therapy services generally offer the very same type of therapy and this type of support. So those types of support is what we call cognitive behavioural therapy and counselling. So Wendy and Wendy will be here today to discuss what cognitive behavioural therapy and what counselling looks like at a talking therapy service. So specifically, we offer either one-to-one support or group support. And that can be in any modality that is most beneficial to you. So whether you would like to come to see us face-to-face, if you'd like to have that therapy over the phone, or if you'd like to have that therapy via video call, so we can offer it in any way. The waiting lists, which we probably will get to, we've got a whole flow chart at the very end. We'll show you the different waiting times for the different types of therapy, whether it's one-to-one or group or counselling or CBT. We also work as our primary care service. We work with lots of other local organisations, so whether that's signposting to different charity organisations, whether that's referring on to other mental health services, or actually within Westminster Talking Therapies, we have an employment team which is able to support you if you're having issues with your employment and that's affecting your mental health. And as I said, the best way to get in touch with us is to make a referral online. So the URL is there. And we've got some, I'm not sure how many we have, but we've got some leaflets on the back, which also has a QR code which you can scan to go straight to our website. So just a little background before we jump into what CBT and counselling is. So the NHS works in what we call a stepped care model, okay? And what that means is we want to offer people the adequate level of support dependent on their need. What we don't want is for people to access inpatient care when realistically they don't need to be in hospital. The way the NHS is moving is actually trying to move care back into the community, so trying to get care out of hospitals as much as possible. So the first thing that you would do is, if you kind of notice that you're experiencing maybe anxiety and depression, you might access your GP, or if you know about a talking therapy service, you might access straight to Talking Therapies, and that's for kind of mild to moderate, what we call anxiety, depression, or anything within the kind of anxiety and depression realm. If you are maybe need a little bit more support than just one-to-one sessions, CBT or counselling, you might need more holistic support. and that would be done with the community mental health team. So a community mental health team is composed not only of psychologists, but also social workers, nurses, the team is huge, and what they do is they really give you the support if you're experiencing those kind of maybe more severe and enduring mental illnesses, so things like psychosis, things like schizophrenia, things like a personality disorder. You might get treatment from your community mental health team. So that's why we say it's kind of maybe in the more kind of moderate to severe range. And that support that you get from the community mental health team is going to look very, very different depending on what you come with. So when you access mental health support from primary care, it's quite similar to a certain extent, but I suppose with the community mental health team, because there's so many different cogs to that wheel, it looks very different dependent. And then if you need really focused, intensive support, you might be requiring kind of inpatient support, so we kind of call that kind of tertiary or third care. And I've just kind of put St. Charles Hospital as that's kind of like what our local hospital that you'd be sent to if you have those kind of needs. But what we really are trying to do is minimise the inpatient and stick maybe more with the community mental health and the primary care. And the reason why we have the arrows is that you can be, at each stage, you can either be stepped up or you can be stepped down. Okay, so if you might start having support from primary care and you might get stepped up to the community mental health team and then get some treatment from the community mental health team, and then maybe in time you might be able to access support then again from primary care. And I'm going to pass over to Wendy.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina. So at Westminister Talking Therapies, one of the main forms of therapy we offer is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And the main theory around CBT is that the way that we think and the things that we do, so our behaviors, will impact the way that we feel, so both emotionally and physically. And that will then go on to further impact maybe the thoughts that we're having and the things that we're doing in our day-to-day. So in CBT, you would work with a therapist, either one-to-one or in a group format, to try and identify if you're having any kind of unhelpful thinking patterns or unhelpful behaviors and coping mechanisms, and to see if you can replace that with some more helpful behaviors or kind of challenge some of those unhelpful thinking patterns. So yeah, that's the main gist of CBT, and the next slide will illustrate as well, that in a more visual format. Yeah, so this is a visual representation of what I've just mentioned. It's called the 5 areas model, which you would explore in CBT therapy. But again, it kind of looks at the thoughts that you might have in a specific situation, how that might then impact the way you're feeling physically and emotionally, how that might lead to different behaviors in your day-to-day, and how that can all feed back into all these other different areas to kind of form a vicious cycle. So CBT is all around breaking out of that vicious cycle, mainly by targeting unhelpful behaviors or unhelpful thinking patterns that you might have. So it's a very structured form of therapy as well. So it's all about kind of working through different tools and techniques that you can implement to your own life. And it's also very present focused, so more about what we can do now to manage the way that we're feeling or things that we're doing in our day-to-day. So it's quite a different approach to counselling, which other Wendy will go through in just a second.
Okay. So counselling is a different form of therapy that we offer at Westminister Talking Therapy, and I'll briefly introduce to you what it looks like and what to expect. So it's a form of high intensity treatment, short-term treatment. So it would be 50-minute weekly session, one-to-one for from 6 to 12 weeks, 6 to 20 weeks, depending on what is most appropriate for you. First of all, it offers a safe and confidential space to explore anything that you want to bring in depth. So something for you to think about how you're actually doing, a place for you to say that you're not okay when you're not feeling okay. In this space, we'll work on emotional regulation and grounding, so basically to help you steady your emotions and de-escalate when you feel that things are overwhelming. We'll also help you understand the impact of significant events in life. So for many people, it could be pressure around assignment or exams, relationship breakdown, moving to the UK, or things happening back home. So it would be a chance for you to slow down and notice what's happening and how it's affecting how you're feeling. And another important part would be to look at patterns that occur over time. So in current and past feeling, relationships and experiences, we're not just dealing with one single incident. So we'll look at patterns that carry on repeating themselves. For example, you could be feeling that you're not good enough, or always putting others first, or kept involving yourself in similar conflicts. Counselling would give you the space to understand where those things are coming from and how you can better approach them. Overall, I would say the focus would be on making sense of yourself and your narrative. So the goal is to help you understand yourself better and know how to support yourself better. And like Wendy and Gina has mentioned, we have a few different modalities in counselling that we offer at Westminster Talking Therapy. So we have counselling for depression, dynamic interpersonal therapy, and interpersonal psychotherapy. So they are just different approaches that we offer, but don't worry if you don't know what they are, they're not something that you have to choose from. During assessment, our clinician will assess the situation that you're in and decide what will be the most suitable treatment for you. To just very briefly take you through this, CFD would be focusing on emotions. So if you have been feeling low or down during an episode of depression, you might have a tendency to suppress your emotions, and CFD will allow you to explore those further and help you regulate rather than avoiding them. And DIT would be focusing a bit more on how your past relationship and past experience affect how you feel now. So your upbringing, your family relationship, and how they shape who you are and how you feel. IPT would focus on relationship and role changes. So significant events that has happened, moving to a different country, difficulties in relationships, that will be more suitable. But again, the most important thing to remember is that when you come to our service, we'll offer the most suitable care for you, and for you to know that there are many options there. Now I'll pass it back to Gina, and she'll take you through.
Yes, just some other services that are available. So yes, so I forgot to mention at the very beginning, obviously because Talking Therapies is an NHS service, it's completely free and confidential, so it's not like you have to pay to access our service. The other thing that I would like to mention right now as well is that the therapy that we offer is brief, so Wendy and Wendy took me through, it's either between about 6 and 12 or 20 weeks. That doesn't mean that once you have those number of weeks that you can never come back. What we say is we ask people who make referrals for it who've completed treatment within our service to wait 3 months, and then they can re-refer again. So if you've had 6 weeks and would like to come back for another 12 weeks, maybe you might get stepped up, you can do so, but after 3 months. But there are other services available. So really importantly, Westminster Talking Therapies, as I said, works with people who have mild to moderate anxiety and depression. So we are not a crisis service. That means we are not a 24/7 service that offers support for people who are experiencing thoughts of harming themselves or others. So what should you do if you are in a crisis? It's really important to understand what to do in those moments. So the first thing that you can do is contact your local, what we call SPA, which stands for Single Point of Access. And that is the one for CNWL there. So those are boroughs of Westminster, Kensington and Chelsea, I want to say Brent, Harrow and Hillingdon, not Milton Keynes and not Hammersmith and Fulham, but I might need to check that. But just, yeah, if you Google where you are and then SPA, you should get the number to come up, who to call. So the SPA service is a telephone support service for those who are in crisis. But also if someone that you know of is in crisis and you would like to get some professional support of how to support that person. And so it's advice, support, referrals and information in mental health for all ages. And then actually quite similarly, there's the NHS 111 service. So we know NHS 111, you might look it up on your phone and you might call them to get some advice. for your physical health, but they've recently opened a option 2. So if you dial 111 and click option 2, that is a mental health support. So it's quite similar to the spa service, but it's the 111 number is nationwide, so it doesn't depend on what borough you're in. And then the new services that are opening across the NWL are what we call mental health crisis alternative service. I think I made that up, so I do apologise. So they're called NCAS services, and they are basically a mental health A&E, but not as A&E as what it looks like. So it's meant to be a more therapeutic support service for people to walk in if they are in crisis. And there's one in St Charles Hospital in Kensington and Chelsea, but there's also another one, I think, in North London. And very quickly, I know that there's some questions around kind of ADHD, and you know, if you have an ADHD diagnosis from a different country, and you'd like to get that formally recognised in the UK. So to have your ADHD diagnosis formally recognised in the UK, you need to have that recognised by a UK practitioner. So the first thing that you can do is your GP can refer you to your local specialist. Unfortunately, local specialists on the NHS, the waiting lists tend to be quite long. I know in CNWL the waiting lists are actually closed at the moment, but there is something called the right to choose, which you can do. So Harrow Health is an NHS organisation that has the shortest waiting times in England. And what you can do is your GP can refer you, and what you do is you download the right to choose letter from their website. So if you go on the Harrow Health website, you can download that letter template, and then your GP will be able to make that referral for you to Harrow Health. And I think their waiting lists are about 18 weeks, but I'm not 100% sure. And the other thing that you can do is you can go privately. So you can pay a private psychiatrist who will be able to prescribe and monitor your medications, but also then maybe might be able to kind of hand that care off back to the GP if they have an agreement. But that's obviously a self-funded option. So sorry, that was a bit whistle stop, but okay, we'll move on. Okay, so now on to my incredibly confusing flowchart, but it does make sense if you spend some time looking at it. So first thing is, so this is kind of what to expect from accessing NHS services. So the first thing is you might think, I have not been feeling myself, okay? So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, am I in crisis? Okay, so if you are in crisis, then you're going to have to contact those crisis services that I mentioned before. And they will be able to either refer you to the appropriate service, such as the community mental health team or the home treatment team, or for other support. Or there's also the Samaritans, and they might refer you as well to that MCAS that I was speaking about. But if you're not in crisis, think to yourself, is it something to do with anxiety and depression? Okay. If you're not sure, speak to your GP. Easy. And then what they might do is they might refer you to Talking Therapies, or they might refer you to the most appropriate team for your care. If you do believe it's anxiety and depression, what you can do is you can make that self-referral to Talking Therapies, and then in Westminster, within 2 weeks, you should get your assessment, and that assessment takes place over the phone, and it lasts about an hour, and it's a space for you to explore your feelings and the things that are kind of coming up for you at the moment. After that assessment, they might think, actually, you're not suitable for our service, so they might refer you onwards to a different service, or refer you or discharge you back to your GP, okay? If you are suitable, you might go into either a group or one-to-one. Here you can see the different waiting times for that one-to-one treatment, and then and how long it lasts. And then once you complete treatment, you are discharged from our service, and then you'll speak to your GP about that. And then if you think that you need treatment again, as I said here, after 3 months, you can do that whole journey again, okay? So I am aware that we're just short on time, and I know that was very quick. So I hope that does make sense. If you want to take a picture of it, please do. And yeah, great. Anything? So now we are going to have a Q&A, which will last about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions about anything that we've just presented on, please feel free to ask. We also, I will say, that we are one of the stall holders over there, so if you prefer to speak to us kind of one-to-one, that's absolutely fine. Come and grab us for a chat, so we'd be more than happy to speak about anything that we've spoken about. But for the moment, any questions?
Sorry, I just had a very brief one. Will PPTs be available to us?
So UCL can't. Sorry? The PPT is not available.
Okay.
But
The UCL one is not
Oh,
available.
we can share, we're happy to share ours, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, sorry.
As much as I love the UCL list.
Yes, we are more than happy to share the our PowerPoint presentation. I don't have access to email addresses for all of you, so I hope that that might be sorted.
So there will be a recording of the talk that will be uploaded later, so you will have access to the slides as well as the talk. Everything has been covered.
Any more questions?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, a lot of information, very useful. So my question is, how much of the service can be provided in Mandarin? And do you think language barrier is one of the reasons that stops people to go to NHS for service? And if so, has NHS done something to improve on that?
So we have. Is this one working?
I think you can speak through there.
Oh, okay. I speak through this one. For non-English speakers, we can include an interpreter in the room with you or online. So you will have everything being translated and what the therapist is saying translate back to you, if that's an option. We do have therapists who speaks different languages available at the service, but it's not a guarantee that you will be allocated with someone who speaks Mandarin. So it's more of a hit and miss. But if that's a requirement, it may happen. But I think interpreter would be the way to go.
Yeah, and just to answer the second part of your question, so the reason this event actually took place today is because Wendy, assistant psychologist Wendy, and I have we're running a project in collaboration with King's College London for just over a year, and Wendy's still continuing with that project at the moment. So the GP from King's College had come to me and said that what she had noticed is that a large proportion of Chinese students were feeling very anxious, quite down, adjusting to life in the UK, finding it very difficult. They were, encouraging people as much as possible to access talking therapies, but there seemed to be a little bit of a gap between, attending the therapy services. So what we decided to do is, if a student would go to the King's College GP and say that they're feeling either low or anxious or stressed, that GP then would get in contact with Wendy, and Wendy would have a 15 to 30 minute phone call with that student before they make a referral to our service, and that phone call would be in Mandarin. So hopefully by kind of bridging that gap and getting that little bit more information from someone from the service to feel a little bit more comfortable about accessing the support and also knowing what to expect when to come to the service. We did see some positive results from that first year, didn't we? Do you remember any of them?
I think we did see because it wasn't for a hugely long period of time, but we did see a marginal increase in kind of the number of students that went on to start treatment and to complete treatment, as we did find there was before that a pretty big disengagement rate between, for example, being assessed and then beginning treatment, or from referring and actually getting that assessment done. So there was a marginal increase in that retention rate, and I think a marginal increase in recovery as well of those students that had completed a full course of treatment. But with that as well, it was quite a small kind of data set, I guess, because it hadn't been going on for a huge amount of time yet. But yeah, so far a few positive indicators.
Yeah, I suppose we're quite lucky at Westminster that we have Wendy, and then also another CBT therapist called Pei, who are all Mandarin speakers, and if they feel comfortable to offer treatment and assessments in Mandarin, then they will. But that, once again, it goes back to that a little bit of a postcode lottery depending on your service. And this was just a project that kind of came together. But yeah, we're always trying to improve the access to care because it's a primary care service. So again, thank you for your question. I want to say thank you so much to Leo for inviting us here today. As I said at the beginning, this is something that I've been working on for a number of years, and I'm just so delighted to be part of this event, as we make feel so welcome. And thank you so much to Anna and everyone at CPPCUK for organising this. It's been an absolutely fantastic event. So looking forward to chatting you all. We'll be in the solar. Thank you.